Eagles today, but let's check on a late window game of note. Tom Pelissero on the Cowboys and Vikings to kick off hour two. Thomas?
Rich, Ezekiel Elliott will return to the Cowboys lineup today after missing the past 2 games because of a knee injury. However, I am told the plan going in is for Tony Pollard to get a little bit more in terms of touches today against the Vikings as they ease Zeke back in. He suffered an LCL injury and a significant contusion all the way down his shin back on October 23rd. I'm told he will wear a brace on the knee today, but he looked good all week in practice. That's great news for the Cowboys offense and Dak Prescott, who statistically has not been himself since returning from that fractured right thumb. Danielle Hunter, the Vikings pass rusher, told me they haven't seen Dak moving around as much on tape either, but eventually Hunter said, it's Dak. You never know what he might come with any day, so we prepare for everything. Rich?
All right, and that's how we are going to kick off hour number 2 with the conversation about the Cowboys and the Vikings through the prism of the Cowboys defense, which, as you can see, has definitely been leaking a little bit of oil of late. Certainly blowing a 14-point lead in Green Bay last week. It's NFL Game Day morning presented by Lowe's. Let's tackle home together. Rich Eisen, Steve Marici, Kurt Warner, Emmanuel Sanders joining us on set.
Thanks for coming.
While Michael Irvin tackles home alone. As he said in hour number 1, he's chilling out right there.
What's up, man? What's up, dog?
And so you saw those numbers, how in the last 2 games, the Cowboys defense has averaged giving up 30 points per game. That is quite a chunky number. Michael Irvin, the question is will those defensive struggles roll on in Minnesota today?
Rich, I have no reason to believe that they will not continue today, those struggles. Now, I've been hearing a lot of rhetoric around here, a lot of talk. I'll give these guys that. I'll call it talk about how they're going to step up and stop this run. But we have seen no evidence of it on the football field. And let me tell you this. This is what makes me so upset. It's one thing to allow a team to run on you. But the Cowboys, what they did last week, it was the ultimate thing. You were up by 14, and this team was rushing the football and caught back up with you. Usually, you're trying to make a team rush the football. You know what I'm saying? It was just amazing to see that. And this team is about pass rush. If you can't get the team passing the football and they can tie the ears back, so I don't see anything that was said. That's why I'm going to call on CeeDee Lamb and that offense to outplay Minnesota's offense.
I'm going to agree with you, Irv, is that, when you watch them, they're not getting anybody to win quickly in the run game, meaning their defensive linemen, you got to take on those double teams. You've got to win quickly and get into the backfield to free up your linebackers. When I watch these teams that are playing against them running the football, they're winning the line of scrimmage, and they're able to get up to guys like Micah Parsons on that second level. And you've got no chance to be able to stop the run if teams are getting up into the second level and giving their running back a chance to get up into your secondary. So I don't see where that changes. I don't know if they change up the scheme a little bit, but they've got to get some guys that are going to win quickly up front, and they just don't have it right now.
What Irv said, is alarming, really, when the Dallas Cowboys are up by 14 points, and the Packers says, we're going to keep running the ball. Well, that's because of necessity. The Green Bay doesn't think they can protect and get open like some teams might, so they kept running the ball very well, by the way. The Vikings aren't built that way. If they get behind, they're going to sling it because they got weapons out there, right? With Jefferson and Thielen and the MVP. Irv's MVP, they're going to sling it if they get behind. That's why it's important for the score for the Cowboys to get ahead early, because otherwise, if it's an even game, Dalvin Cook is a beast, all right? He can run the ball as well as anybody. Heck, he had 146 yards, scrimmage yards against the best defense in the league last week.
This run started the comeback.
And weren't they down 14 at that time?
Yeah, boom, there he goes. And the last 3 times he's played the Cowboys, he's got over 140 scrimmage yards, so he's going to get a heavy dose of Dalvin Cook. That's got to be the game plan, but the score's got to be right.
100%. And then I'm with you guys. When you look at the run defense, obviously their run defense isn't good. So you guys have already talked about that. But then I look back and I look at the Green Bay game. The way Christian Watson was destroying their number 2 and number 3 cornerbacks. The Minnesota Vikings have a guy by the name of Adam Thielen. Adam Thielen was one of the best receivers in the league at some point. He hasn't had that breakout game this year, and I see Adam Thielen having a breakout game. Now, I was going to come here and talk about the run defense, but you guys hit on that. But that matchup with the number 2 and number 3 cornerbacks, how Christian Watson put on the show versus them, watch out for Adam Thielen as well. It can be dangerous.
So what happened to the defense? I mean, can we chalk up to anything here?
You're not good at everything. They're great at rushing the passer, right? 35 sacks. They can hit any quarterback anytime. But they're going to the quarterback and they play the run on the way to the quarterback. Well, that concept is going to get gashed every now and then with the run game. And Dan Quinn will get it fixed. But right now, that's their Achilles heel, is stopping the run.
And for me, how do you stop the run? You got to hold your gaps. You have to hold your gaps and come downhill, right? But they're getting beat on the perimeter. When you go back and you watch the Green Bay game, they're getting beat on the perimeter. And when they're attacking them inside, they're getting yards after contact, and that's a problem as well.
That's the conversation they're having around here, guys, that they have to play more team defense, where everybody plays their responsibility, and stop just trying to get to the quarterback and get those sack totals up. You can have those conversations. Let's see if it's produced on the football field today.
Meanwhile, the Cowboys enter Week 11 a third-place team, looking up at the New York Giants.
Rich, Viking star Justin Jefferson made one of the most remarkable catches in NFL history last week in that overtime win over the Bills. Jefferson also suffered an injury to his big toe that he told me caused him quite a deal of pain in that game. He was limited in practice this week with what I am told is a mild turf toe injury. It is something the Vikings are going to have to manage going forward. But when I asked Jefferson if he'll be restricted today against Stephon Diggs and the Cowboys, Jefferson smiled and said, nah, not at all. He is a big reason the Vikings are 8-1, already closing on the NFC North title. Today they host a Cowboys team coming off a frustrating loss at Green Bay, but still in the thick of the NFC playoff chase.
I was made for this. I was made for this.
The time is now. Time for some football, baby.
Couldn't have picked a better man for the job.
And he is back.
All my haters step back and just watch as I zoom right past you.
Watch the dog.
This is something I was made for.
Are you kidding me?
We're not getting off the gas.
It's a long game, but I will remain strong.
I do like that.
Pull up and I'm breaking, man, if you with it. You're bouncing at the time for me to give you the business.
Lock in, CeeDee Lamb. Climbs the ladder.
The sky is the limit.
Catch of his life.
Two of the best young receivers in the league, but as you can see, this is CeeDee Lamb's first season as the #1 receiver in Dallas. Justin Jefferson took that mantle the minute he was drafted by the Vikings when Stephon Diggs was sent to Buffalo, and he has taken control of that. Now, Michael Irvin, normally I'd be looking across this line right here in front of the TV and see you when I ask you questions here in this segment. And normally you talk to the people who are on the screen. So if you want to talk to Justin Jefferson, he's over your left shoulder, and CeeDee Lamb is over your right. As I ask you which one of these receivers, that's right. Justin Jefferson's side, and then over your right is CeeDee Lamb.
Justin right
correct. Which receiver is going to have a bigger impact today? Your turn. Go.
Well, Rich, let me first say, Rich, and I called them and texted them this here right here. When I said to this fella right here, I told you this, man. I said, I knew one day you and I will be sitting in the Hall of Fame, but I never expected it to be this soon. Like, what a great grab you made in making that play on 4th down. I expect you to have a bigger impact today. But I will also turn to this other dude over here and tell him, listen, man, just because that dude having bigger impact doesn't mean he has to win the game. 88 needs to make sure you win this football game today. That's how I would go into that, Rich, talking to each one of those guys just to tell them a little something before the game.
Now I know what Aikman felt like. You know, I just give you the ball and you make plays. Very well done. But do we want to answer the actual question as to which one will have a bigger impact today? What do you think?
I gave it to you. I told CD that that other kid will have the bigger impact, and he will have the bigger impact because everything in the passing game for the Minnesota Vikings goes around Justin Jefferson. That play, that 4th and 18, let's be real, guys. Let's be real. I don't know where Kirk Cousins was throwing that ball, and I love Kirk Cousins. I heard Kirk Cousins talking about it. I don't think he knew where he was throwing that ball. All he knew was he had to get it somewhere between heaven and earth in Justin Jefferson's direction, and he would pull it down. And that's just what happened. It was somewhere between heaven and earth, and JJ made a play. And that's what they're going to do today. Anytime they get desperate, don't know what to do, ain't got nothing else to do, he will throw it somewhere between heaven and earth, and Justin Jefferson will come down with it.
One of the most remarkable catches, period, end of story. That's Michael Irvin here on.
Right, and guys, you know, what's so great about the NFL, what is so great about the NFL, that you can have some failures, and then you can turn around 7 days later, or, and in some case 4 days later, and get an opportunity to do a whole nother thing and have great success. The Cowboys, I would say, last week had great failure, losing that game to Green Bay Packers, who had lost, 4 or 5 games straight. But this week, they get an opportunity to play the best team in the NFL. The best team in the NFL. And let me tell you the good vibes I'm getting right now. Because the Bible says God would never put more on me than I could handle. And I'm already dealing with being stuck here, away from my boys at home. I got all my family here, and I can't even be with them because I have COVID. I tested positive for COVID. So God said to me, Michael, I put you through enough pain. What I'm going to do for you is let the Cowboys beat the best team in the NFL today to give you some reprieve. So a bad day one day, a good day the next day. That's how the NFL is, buddy. I'm telling you, God must be telling me good things are going to happen because the Cowboys are playing the best team in the NFL, and maybe we get a win here.
Well, just to bring it all together, to weave it all together, to weave the tapestry that Michael likes to weave. If the playoffs started today, there are 8 teams, as you know, in the AFC East and NFC East combined. 7 of them would be in the playoffs. The Washington Commanders would be the only one on the outside looking in. They take on the Texans today. And in terms of what you said, Kurt, all non-playing season, we were talking about how deep the AFC West is going to be. And the Chiefs could essentially wrap it up by a Week 11 Sunday night with a win across the street tonight. And then, as what Michael just said, it is the 8-1 Vikings after they had a remarkable overtime win in Western New York.
Great game.
Welcoming in the Cowboys, fresh off a loss against Green Bay. Tom Pelissero, kick us off, sir.
Rich, I'm a little worried about Irv, but here's some good news for him. Ezekiel Elliott will be back in the Cowboys lineup after missing the past 2 games with a knee injury. However, I am told the plan going in is for Tony Pollard to get a little bit more in terms of touches as they ease Zeke back in. But the Vikings, Zadarius Smith will be active despite his sore knee. The Vikings will play it safe with him. They got another game in 4 days. Look for Smith mostly on pass rush downs. Here's Mike Giardi in Foxborough.
88 receiving yards to pass Randy Moss for most in a player's first 3 seasons. Will he get it against your Cowboys?
Yes, he will.
Okay, I started it before the buzzer. That's the way we rule this.
Yeah.
Okay, great.